One heart, one mind, one world. HIV affects everyone. Get tested.
Welcome to Viewpoint, and we are back again with Heidi Sanders from DOVES, an advocate with this organization doing wonderful work in the Flathead community in the valley here. And Heidi, welcome back.
Thank you.
It was a nice little break that we had, and you know, I was talking to Heidi about how broad that domestic violence can be, but also how small it can be as well in so many ways. And we were having this wonderful discussion about it, and about just how can the families look at this and trying to help each other through something like this.
And as we had discussed a little bit during the break, I am very compassionate to family members and friends of people who are in unhealthy relationships, because as somebody who wants to help, it can be so frustrating. You know, this isn't something that's very easily fixed. It's not something that, you know, you can say, stop this right now. It's so complicated and it's so hard. And I guess it can feel really helpless sometimes to be somebody on the outside looking in. And I just encourage loved ones to stay in contact with people who are in unhealthy relationships and say, should the day come when you need my help, I am here.
And Heidi, why do people stay in abusive relationships?
Oh.
That's like the $1,000 million question.
Yeah, and there's
for all of us
a million answers to it, and really good answers. You know, I think children is what we run into most. I mean, when you have children with someone, you have legal obligations that are sometimes hard to get out of, and if you don't have the help of an attorney, that can feel really hard, really binding. Financial reasons. We have a lot of victims who have never had jobs. They have either been homemakers or they haven't been allowed to hold a job, and so therefore they have absolutely no financial resources. And if they've been isolated from friends and family, they literally have nowhere to go and nothing with which to go. And now they have children that they have to take with them and provide for them, and that can be a really helpless feeling. I also think it's really important to mention that most abusive relationships are not abusive all the time. It isn't, you know, a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week abuse. There are very good times too, and these are people who do have good qualities, you know, and their victims love them, and we can't underestimate that. And I think there's a tendency for victims to want to make this relationship work. They have a lot invested in it. A lot of times they have, as we mentioned, children. They have home. They have a history together. And even in a healthy relationship, that's really hard to tease apart lives that have been intertwined for years and years and years. I mean, just imagine going through your CD collection or just trying to, you know, sort out who gets the furniture. Now imagine you are deathly afraid that if you do that, somebody is literally going to hurt you. Really hard.
Extremely hard.
Yeah.
I
think safety is the #1 issue too. Sorry I interrupted you, but I want to mention that the time when a woman is leaving her abuser is the most dangerous time for her. What has been working previously, those abuse tactics, those control tactics, are no longer working if she's making a plan to leave. So it's very common to see an abuser up the ante. You know, this isn't work, let me try something else. So homicide during that time is a substantial risk.
It takes a tremendous amount of courage for someone to step out of these kind of relationships. A tremendous amount of courage, I have to say. Inner strength to be able to call that hotline number.
Yeah.
Or to call that 911 number and to say, you know what, I need help. Because so many people I believe, are scared of change, and so many people feel trapped in their relationships, as for the reasons that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Speaking about hotlines, is there a hotline number here locally that
there
people
is.
Can call?
Our number, our 883-3350, is staffed by an advocate 24 hours a day. So even if it's after business hours, there will be somebody there to answer the phone. Now, I will caution people as far as, you know, actually being able to do something. A lot of our, you know, court remedies and whatnot are limited to business hours, but at least there's always a live person on the end of that line that you will be able to talk to.
That's great. All the time?
All the time.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. What can community members do to help end domestic violence or intimate partner violence? I'm getting
We're all
better.
learning.
Yeah.
Well, I encourage them to, seek out nonprofits and see if there's any needs, be it financial or other things that they need. The other thing to do is, when it comes election cycle, pay attention to our community leaders. Ask them what they feel about intimate partner violence, what they think is important, what services they are dedicated to providing, and then vote accordingly. I think that's a very grassroots, practical way that we can make sure that people who are compassionate and dedicated to preventing intimate partner violence are in our community offices.
And I'm going to ask you another question about accessibility to services, because I believe that it's different if you're a tribal person versus non-tribal. Can you, the best way that you can, describe the process or differences, and also what resources are there for people who are tribal?
Sure. Now, admittedly, I am not an expert on this. There is a sister organization to DOVES called the Victim Assistance Program that is located in Pablo, and should anyone want to get a hold of them, they can call the switchboard there, okay, and then ask for a Victim Assistance Program or VAP. But from my experience with working with Native American clients, confidentiality is a huge issue. We live in a very small community, and there's a lot of talk about other people. And so sometimes just being seen in the DOVES office, although we do our best to, keep it confidential, or just being in the parking lot or whatever, people start talking about that. So I know that can be a hindrance for people seeking services.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Let's see, what the most important thing about DOVES, I think, in my personal opinion, is that, first of all, that you're open to having to serve clients. And one of the things that I can remember in my past experiences in doing human rights work is that domestic violence or intimate partner violence is not always between a man and a woman. Mm-mm. It happens with same-sex couples as well. Has DOVES ever had that kind of experience before?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Really?
Heterosexuals do not have a corner on the market when it comes to intimate partner violence, and we're very open to that. Unfortunately, in Montana, they only recognize an intimate partnership as existing between a man and a woman. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, there are some legal rights, protections, and remedies that are only available to a couple of men and women. However, we got some pretty smart cookies who work at DOVES, and so we always encourage everybody, to come in and kind of talk to us about what their options are.
So if you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and if you're in a domestic violence situation, and also if you're straight or heterosexual, we can call DOVES. Anyone can call
Absolutely.
DOVES and
Absolutely.
have this assistance.
Yes, please.
That's wonderful. That's a great resource. And so I wanted to also just also say that I was also doing some research, and also from the CDC, they say that there's several factors can increase the risk that someone will hurt his or her partner. However, having these risk factors do not always mean that intimate partner violence will occur. And so, like, risk factors of being violent or aggressive, as you mentioned, seeking or being a victim of violence as a child, mm-hmm, and using drugs or alcohol, especially drinking heavily, not having a job or other life events that cause stress. Has that been true for your experience?
I believe it's a catalyst. I guess I want to make the distinction that, drug abuse, alcohol abuse do not cause intimate partner violence. Mm-hmm. I think they can lower people's inhibitions and make them more likely to offend, but I don't think it creates any behavior. It just makes that behavior easier to exact.
Thank you so much for explaining that, because I think it is important to express that. Also, they say that each year women experience about 4.8 million intimate partner-related physical assaults and rapes. Men are the victims of about 2.9 million intimate partner-related physical assaults. And this information, again, is from the CDC. And also, to give you some more numbers, intimate partner violence resulted in 2,340 deaths in 2007. Of these deaths, 70% were females and 30% were males, according to this. The medical care mental health services lost productivity. Cost of intimate partner violence was an estimate of $5.8 million in 1995.
Yeah. So there's a real financial reason, you know, to help work on preventing intimate partner violence. I would like to backtrack a little bit, though, and I would really like people to not only focus on physical violence when it comes to battering behavior, because a lot of times that isn't necessary. You know, a lot of times batterers can just give a certain look, or there's a gesture that's very intimidating, you know, threatening to harm children, threatening to harm pets. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen that aren't physical violence, that aren't healthful, that I would like people to be aware of as well.
Absolutely. I think that mental abuse, if you want to call it mental abuse, is also a huge factor because of the fear.
Yeah.
The intimidation that it causes. I think so sometimes I wonder if victims, women or men who go through this, are really feel that they can that this is a legitimate event or a legitimate situation that they're in based on mental, because how do you prove mental abuse?
Yeah, and I think one thing we've kind of forgotten is shame. Shame is such a huge thing that goes along with this. And I've had a lot of clients say that the mental abuse is far worse than the physical abuse. Physical abuse is episodic, it's over quickly, and you can heal. But when you have someone telling you day in and day out that you're worthless, it's really hard not to believe them after a while. And that's very damaging.
So in other words, if you keep saying to a person that they're stupid or ugly, they're going to start believing it in so many ways.
Yeah, you're worthless. Nobody else is ever going to want you. You know, and everybody needs to be loved. And if
absolutely,
yeah, I mean, I think that's what we exist for.
Right.
And if someone's saying to you, "You're so worthless, you're so unattractive that nobody else is ever going to want you," you have no choice but to stay with me. I mean, that resonates in a really primal way with people.
And it happens
all the time.
It happens. That's the thing. And so Heidi, you have a diagram with you. Is there anything that you wanted to reference it from?
I do. This is actually called a power and control wheel, and I really like this because it's it looks like a little piece of pie, or a whole pie, and then there's little pieces of it that talk about different coercive maneuvers, be it the intimidation that we talked about, economic abuse, which can be like putting somebody on essentially like a fixed income, or, you know, having to account for every dollar that you spend, having to bring receipts or something like that, so that a person doesn't have any kind of financial autonomy, because it's really difficult to make a life of your own separate from your abusive partner when you have no money. So this kind of talks about all of those different things that can happen, and hopefully we can make it available for people on our website. First step is always just to call. Our phone number is 883-3350. It's staffed 24 hours a day. And I also want to encourage people, call even if you're not sure what you need, or, you know, if you just need a sympathetic ear. We just really want to alleviate the shame. You know, intimate partner violence happens to a lot of different kinds of people. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you make bad decisions about partners. It doesn't mean you're worthless. I mean, we are there to support you wherever you are in your relationship, whether you are ready to leave, whether you're not. You know, we want to be there for you to provide resources and support through the process.
And Heidi, thank you so much for being on Viewpoint.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you and all the work that you do, and Doves. Thank you to my viewers as well for continuing to watch Viewpoint. We really appreciate your thoughts. Thank you so much. This is Rosalinda with Viewpoint. Have a great day.